Back to the basics. The Ethiopian eunuch was an Israelite, giving all praises to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua Ba'Shem Kakodash. Giving all praises to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua Ba'Shem Kakodash. Anyway, this is from we spoke on the street. This was this past Saturday, which was September 10th, 2022, year of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua turning up. And an individual, Jake, man, came and he was with us pretty much a whole day. He came up on the side of the Apostle Kabar. Then he kind of came to my side. And, he saw an opening and he kind of conversed with us. And I made a statement right around at this point, 32 minutes in. I said he was an Israelite, and I said, you're going to have slaves. And that kind of, well, I don't know about all that. And I didn't get mad at him. And I explained. I said, well, the reason why you reacted that way is because you don't have a ruling class mentality. Jake likes to say, I'm a queen, I'm a king. You call your children prince and kings and little kings and princesses. Well, guess what? A kings and queen and so-called queens and princesses and princes have slaves. Do you know in slavery, that you had I'm talking about in the transatlantic slave trade, that you had children that had those little kid slaves. So they grew up having slaves. They grew up with the understanding that you can have slaves, and they, backed it up with the scriptures. One scripture is Genesis 9, I believe it's 9 verse 25. I'm not going to go to it. I may go to it later. You know what? I am going to go to it because Edom might have come up and say we're justified enslaving you pursuant to Genesis. Let's see if that's Genesis 9 verse 25 or 6 verse 20. I believe it's Genesis 9 verse 20. It's definitely Genesis 9 verse 25. Okay, so let me start from okay. Genesis 9 verse 20. And Noah began to be an husbandman, and he planted a vineyard. Husbandman meaning a husband. The word husbandman means just that, husband. Show you that. The word husbandman is from the Hebrew word ayash, which means man. Man, male, in contrast to a woman, female. Husband, human being, person. Champion, great man. Whoever, each. Champion, great man. A husbandman is a farmer. What does a farmer do? He plants seeds. He has cattle, livestock, and he grows corn, wheat, whatever. So you're planting seeds. So what does a man do? He plants seeds into the earth, which is a woman, Eve. Eve translates into the word living. She's the earth. So a man puts his seed in the woman, just like a husbandman, a farmer puts his seed into the ground. So it says that Noah began to be an husbandman, meaning a farmer, and he planted a vineyard. And he drank of the wine and was drunken. And why did he drink of the wine and got drunken? Because that was a harrowing experience, being in the ark. And in the back of their mind, they said, "We ain't gonna make it, man. Everybody's dead. What's gonna happen to us?" And the Most High delivered them. Now, now the Chinese character for the word, what is it? The Chinese character for the word boat is a series of characters. I think it's 3 characters combined into one to make up the word 8. You see like a little boat, and then you see eight, and a boat and something else, which means that the Chinese tradition goes back to, they knew about the flood and they knew about Noah, because the Chinese are Moabites, and they stem from Noah, right? Out of Noah came Ham, Shem, and Japheth. The so-called Chinese or the Moabites would be considered Shemites. So to this day, the Chinese character, if you look it up, and somebody did a show on it, if I can find it, I'll bring it up, that the I believe it's either the word, it's the word boat. Boat, it shows the number 8. For 8 people, it shows the letter for 8, then a symbol for a vessel. So every nation has a, when they go back to their history, they have a story of the flood. They said, and he drank of the wine and was drunken, and he was uncovered within his tent. He was naked within his tent. And Ham, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness of his father and told his 2 brothers without, made mockery of him. And Shem and Japheth took a garment and laid it upon both their shoulders and went backwards so they wouldn't see their father's nakedness. And Ham was laughing at Noah, and covered the nakedness of their father, and their faces were backward, and they saw not their father's nakedness. And Noah awoke from his wine and knew what his younger son had done unto him, because the Most High opened up his eyes in a dream. Or now it doesn't say, but his son saw, Ham was looking at you, but it doesn't say that, but they'll say it was a dream. But the bottom line is, he knew what Ham had done. And he said, "Cursed be Canaan." Now you notice he said, "Cursed be Canaan." Ham did the act. The Most High cursed one of Ham's sons, because Ham had 4 sons. A servant of servants shall he be unto his brother, mainly unto Shem. And he said, "Blessed be the Lord power of Shem." Now you notice it said brethren, right? But it was talking about Shem. But it was talking about a particular line of Shem, which are the Israelites, Jacob. And he said, "Blessed be the Lord power of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servants." And that's what the dream was all about, with the vision that Abraham got at the time he was Abram, I believe, in Genesis chapter 15. Talking about the lands that he was going to get. And it wasn't talking about America. Any Israelite that's saying that Genesis chapter 15 is talking about America, you don't understand the scriptures. You are not knowing the scriptures, because it mentions the land. And all those lands, the very last verse, all those lands, it mentions the lands of Canaan. And that's all I need on that. So let's come back. Let's come back to the video. And let's listen to a little bit of this. And you know what to do. You know what to do. You know, read it. Have a plan. Well, he's about to give it to you right now. You know, after we remember.
Habakkuk 3:1. A prayer of Habakkuk the prophet upon Shigionoth. O Lord, I have heard thy speech and was afraid. Okay.
That's going into the destruction. Okay. Who's going to be destroyed? The white man is on top. Was that part you ready? You're going to have to say it, Doc.
The first.
I don't know. Okay, but you know why he said that? I agree. But you know why he said that? Well, because slaves don't do. When I said you're gonna have slaves, he said, I don't know. You can barely hear him. I don't know about all that. But after we explained everything to him at the end, he stayed till the very end. And he said he remembered Elder Yaikwab and High Priest Ariah, maybe even Mo, because the Apostle Gabar showed him a picture. I believe it was High Priest Ariah. I didn't see the picture on his phone. I believe it was High Priest Ariah and High Priest Yaikwab. He said, "Oh, I know them. Yeah, you were those guys." So he knew about this thing, for years. So, like I said, we told him about the fact that he's gonna have slavery. He's gonna have slaves. He's an Israelite. And then we went into reincarnation, and they made him walk a bunch of times. He had to walk up the street. He had to get away from us for about 3-4 minutes, and then get his mind together and come back. But when he left, he clearly saw that reincarnation is biblical. We were a little all over the place. Gabar was going into his rant, going into other things, and I was the one that stirred it back into the reincarnation thing eventually, which was nothing wrong with that, because the spirit was on Apostle Gabar. The spirit jumped on me from time to time. I don't push the spirit. I didn't speak as much as Apostle Gabar, and the spirit was on the Apostle Gabar more than myself. So I said, that's all right. That's the spirit. When the spirit jump on me, I'm gonna start, speaking, So, see, I look for them big shots. I look for the body, the hook to the body, to the liver. I look for that looping overhand right. Jab to the stomach, or the looping overhand right, which is a knockout blow with an uppercut. Apostle Gabar hit you with them combinations, spiritual combinations. I'm looking for them big shots. And that's what I did. You can, in boxing, guy can throw more punch than the other guy, but who wins? It's the guy that throws the punch that knocks your ass out. You waiting for the perfect punch. So that's how the spirit rolled. But there was nothing wrong with what Apostle Gabar did, because the spirit was on him. But I'm looking at the brother's spirit. I said, I don't want to leave without this brother, this individual, not understanding the reincarnation thing, because it messes up a lot of people's head, and it messes up, Vocab Malone is losing sleep over the reincarnation thing. He can't see it because the Most High has not opened up his eyes to see it, because he's an Edomite until he proves otherwise. He's an Edomite. That's why he can't see it. That's why he bucks up. Years ago, I did a thing on reincarnation, and he had to do a counter on reincarnation. But it was a couple of times that I put up videos and I mentioned reincarnation, and Vocab Malone will put his 2 cents in it that reincarnation is not biblical, because he's, he doesn't listen. He's the deaf adder in Psalm 58. But anyway, let's listen to a little bit more.
who's enslaved. But I'm saying, you know why you said what? Yeah. Because you have a now the most time they have to change your mind. We have to see the first class. Okay, so if you're royal, then royalty first place. Then where you go, royalty first place. So if you identify yourself being a royal person, then you got to tell yourself where's the slave. The slave is royal.
Queen Elizabeth had slaves. All of the English citizens are subjects to the queen, which is a nice way of saying slaves. All right. And here you got the American media bigging up this woman when America broke off, the 13 colonies broke off from England because of the monarchy. That there's people over the rest of the people. So why CNN and mainly CNN? Oh, she looks so good. She this and the great things she's in. She had fucking slaves. She had slaves. You just can't go up to her and say, how you doing? You can't just roll up and, the so-called royal family, they have children. You just a commoner. You can't just go up and say, I go out and no. They were on a higher level than you. They bigging her up like she's such a good person, man. She owned slaves. She had servants. So I don't know why well, I do know why, because this is a province of Great Britain to this day. That's why they stopped everything, and mainly on CNN. They did all kind of specials because this is a province of Great Britain, man. They so-called lost the war, but guess what? They didn't lose. They didn't take the colonies. They didn't take the colonies. The colonies was owned by the royalty out of England, man. So let's listen to some more.
When this man goes down, then change the world, or give me Daniel 4:17, whatever. Daniel chapter 4, verse 17. When I came to the truth, I'm like, hey, I can't make it like this. So, and I told you, you're going to say, because I developed a ruling class mentality. So a woman, I want to say, no, I don't want to have slaves. All right, good. You don't have to have slaves. You go out and work in the field. You want to perform. You're going to have slaves, right? It says, in their glory, you shall force yourself. Give me that too. The Apostle Paul, you know what he said? He said, you're going to change in the twinkling of an eye. So you ain't going to be the way that you are now. You ain't going to be that way when that day comes. When the Lord comes back, one of the things the Lord is going to do is not destroy the society. It's changes in the twinkling of an eye. That's what the Apostle Paul said. So you're not going to be with the mentality you have now, the way you are now. You're not going to be that way in that day. And there's nothing else. That's why I said that. Yeah, just as I don't have that. You gotta understand it. You gotta feel that much. You gotta feel that much. But I'm accepting of growth. What you say, I had a objective life conversation. So, you know, the reason why Brother said it's so nonchalant. Well, yeah, he's been in the faith almost 40. Me myself, I've been in the faith more than 30 years. These two men have been in 5 years. See this man. There you go. There you go. So you know. I've listened to that. Yeah, yeah. So it's easy for us to say these things, because we've been in it so long. Right. That's no. Yeah. I get it. Good. Good. This is Daniel 4:17. This matter is by the decree of the watchers, and the demand by the word of the holy ones, to the intent that the living may know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men. You know the living. It's all about the elect. They're the only living. You know why? Because they got the living water. What's the living water? This knowledge is true. same living water that the Lord took. Remember the woman at the well? I will give her the living water. This is what we think. I recently read. I just last night at NCK. But you know, you gotta have to understand. Go to that state. Do it. The Bible and the only ones who's going to get the understanding, we can't say it enough, is the elect of the nation of Israel. When you go into the Greek, you know the scripture where it says, many are called, many are chosen. When you go into the Greek word for chosen, you know what the word that's there? Electos. That's where you get the word elect from. So God ain't these are special people. God ain't dealing with this whole nation right now. He's dealing with the elect out of this nation. That's the real truth. That's the 100% truth. Now, if you're a member of the elect, you're going to get it. It's going to resonate with you. You're going to understand. Just like, let me give you an example. When Yahushua chose his disciples, right? They were the elect of the.
That's why these churches can't get it, and they were fighting against IUIC because they're not of the elect. They're not of the elect. Geno Jennings is not of the elect, so he's not going to make it. His congregation are not of the elect, so they are not going to make it. Unless the Most High wakes up some of them before the destruction, before the decree break forth. Let's listen on.
Right, beginning with the 12, right? One of them betrayed him, but that was already written in prophecy for him to betray the Lord. That was already written in prophecy. The Lord made a statement, said, not one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass, till all be fulfilled. So all had to be fulfilled. Okay? Go ahead.
All right, this is the book of Acts, chapter 8, verse 26.
The scripture said these are men wondered at. That's why everybody's talking about us. You know, vocab is talking about the one Westers. GMS is one of them main ones, and Sakari and ICPK, IUIC, the major ones, and the other ones came out of the one Westers, because we are men wondered at. Let me see, where is that? I believe that's in Micah. I'm not sure, but what I'm gonna do is put this in here. Men wondered at. Let's see what comes up. Okay, I was wrong. Zechariah 3, Zechariah 3, verse 8. Hear now, O Joshua, the high priest, thou and thy fellows, that now when you speak about Joshua, matter of fact, let me do this. Let me see, Zerubbabel is also mentioned here. Zerubbabel ain't mentioned here, but Zerubbabel was a contemporary with the high priest, Joshua the high priest. He had filthy garments. I'm not going to read all of this, but then he received a, okay, it's right here. This is like a whole nother lesson. I mean, this is a lesson right here, you know, Zechariah 3, verse 1. And this represents one of the, well, that goes into something else. I'm not even going to that. It says, I started, you really got to read the whole thing. Third verse. You know what? We start at the top. It's only 10 verses long. And you showed me Joshua the high priest standing before the angel of the Lord Yahweh, and Satan standing at his right hand to resist him. And the Lord Yahweh said unto Satan, the Lord rebuke thee, O Satan, even the Lord Yahweh that hath chosen Jerusalem, rebuke, meaning Israel. Jerusalem is a people, but was a place, rebuke thee. If thou, if not this, is not this a brand plucked out of fire? If there's something of value, your house is on fire and there's something of value and you grab it before it gets burnt, well, that's talking about. Joshua the high priest will be plucked out of the fire. Now, ultimately, the fire represents the nuclear fire. So it was a known fact that one West, the high priest Ariel, was Joshua the high priest. So is now if the fire is talking about the destruction, is the Most High going to? We don't know what's going to happen. We pray that the Most High pluck Ariel out that fire before the destruction comes, because he's a part of an organization that's teaching a RCC RCC doctrine. It says, now Joshua was clothed with filthy garments and stood before the angel, and he answered and spake unto those that stood before him, saying, take away the filthy garments. Now the scriptures in Revelation 16 is in there, and a couple other places. Matthew 22 about the garments. You have to have the right garments on for the wedding feast, right? So he was wearing filthy garments. Take away the filthy garments from him, because when Tazadakia, the so-called God sent comforter, when he came in the so-called power, he told them, he deceived them into thinking that he was a comforter, and Ariel was with it. He said, I'm so glad the comforter is finally here. I said, my mind, I said, man, this man's wearing dirty garments. I didn't say exactly that, but I said, this man's going off. I said, this man ain't the comforter. The comforter is the book that the spirit of the Yahweh Shai come in the book. And then they started teaching. You got to go back and remember, they was teaching that that Joseph never had sex with Mary. And then it said that Joseph never had sex with Mary ever. And they use a term called the ever virgin. So all the children that she had were virgin births, which is a Roman RCC doctrine. And the way he was dressing was like damn near like the Pope. That was a Roman Catholic. He was pulled to the side. They were calling themselves the apostolic succession, which that goes back to the RCC. Apostolic succession, that means you're an insider. It said, take away, 4th verse again, and he answered and spake unto those that stood before him, saying, take away the filthy garments from him. Filthy garments mean the wrong information. Joseph never had sex with Mary. What was the other thing? Among others, what I say? The comforter is an actual man. That's clearly not of the scriptures, of the spirit of the Most High, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, Bashem Rukakwadash. And unto him he said, behold, I have caused thine iniquity to pass from thee, and I will clothe thee with change of remnant. He's going to change your mind. Go back to Revelation chapter 16, where it speaks about being naked. Being naked. Meaning without this knowledge. If you don't have this knowledge, you're naked. If you don't have the full 100% knowledge, you're naked. So it says, I have caused thine iniquity to pass from thee, and I will clothe thee with change of remnant. And I said, let them set a fair mitre upon his head. Now, High Priest Ariel was always known for wearing a mitre. Sometimes he wore a cowboy hat, but when he taught and all that, he's wearing, you know, a mitre, a turban. Now, I remember there was one time that the top heads were coming down to the camp and they were wearing like regular clothes, you know. Sometimes Ariel would dress up kind of like a cowboy, wear cowboy boots and the 10-gallon hat, whatever it is. And I remember me, myself, and some others said, "Why y'all coming down here, dressed like that? Y'all supposed to be wearing garments." And I got cursed out, me and others. Look, we the heads, we can do what the hell we want to do. I said, okay, all right. I said, you ain't gonna see me down here with a cowboy suit on, with a horse, tied to a pole. So that was the beginning of him putting on dirty garments. So he was literally, when he came down to the speaking, they would come in any old that power, that power structure BS. But then we thought about that, with this scripture right here, this chapter, Zechariah 3 verse 5. It goes on to say, and I said, let them set a fair mitre upon his head, clean mitre, pure mitre, a beautiful mitre, mitre. So they set a fair mitre upon his head and clothed him with garments. And the angel of the Lord stood by, and the angel of the Lord Yahweh protested unto Joshua, saying, thus saith Yahweh of hosts, the armies, if thou wilt walk in my ways, if you get your act together, you change around, change your life around, you repent, and if thou wilt keep my charge, because it's us doing the will of the Most High. Was that Hezekiah? He prayed. Isaiah told him, I was going through this the other day. Isaiah told him to get his house in order, right? Because you're going to die. And why did Isaiah say it? Because the Most High told Isaiah to tell him that he's going to die. So get his house in order. Long story short, he didn't want to die. He went before the Father and he told the Father, Heavenly Father, I did good. I didn't do any evil. I did what you told me to do. And then the Most High said, okay, because you said that and you did do the right thing, you were a good king, so to speak, I will grant thee 15 years. Then the Lord went back to Isaiah and he told Isaiah, go and tell him you got 15 years. And that's what Isaiah told him. So was Isaiah a false prophet? No, the Most High just said change. He heard that prayer. He said, okay, I'm going to give him 15 years. It said, thus saith the Lord of hosts, if thou wilt walk in my ways, and if thou wilt keep my charge, then thou shalt also judge my house, and shalt also keep my courts. The courts are going to be in the kingdom, right? It speaks about the inner court and the outer court. And I will give thee places to walk among these that stand by. So it says the branch, right? It says 8 verse, Zechariah 3 verse 8. Hear now, O Joshua, the high priest, thou and thy fellows that sit before thee. For they are men wondered at. So it's not just one man. It's Joshua, it's Zerubbabel, and the other men. When you read, what is that? Is that in Ezra or Esther? Wait a minute. Bear me for a minute. Bear me for a minute. Now I got to get it. Okay, where am I? Let me find my place. Let me try Esther first. It can't be Esther. It got to be Ezra. 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 Bear me for a minute. Let me try it this way. I'm sorry. Okay, it's not Esther. It's do this. Let me do it this way. Okay, I'm sorry. Let me come back. I'm getting old, man. I knew it wasn't Esther. All right, Ezra. Ezra. Okay, so Zerubbabel was a governor of Babylon under the Babylonians, right? And his second hand man was Joshua. So it says not, so that's when it's I'm gonna come back when it says they are men wondered at. These are the men, and everything is reincarnated. Now, when the adversaries of Judah and Benjamin heard that the children of the captivity build the temple unto Yahweh, the Most High of Israel, Yasha'Allah, then they came to Zerubbabel, which he was the head, and to the chief of the fathers, and said unto them, let us build with you, for we seek your power as ye do, and we do sacrifice unto him since the days of Esarhaddon, king of Assyria. It says Ashur, which was Shalmaneser the fifth. Remember, he put people in Samaria, which brought us up hither, because they started saying that they were the Israelites. So we're gonna build with you. And they said, nah, you ain't gonna build with us. We're gonna build. You're not a part of us. So what they did was they came against us. They upset, the well, it says here, then the people of the land weakened the hands of the people of Judah, Benjamin, Levi, and troubled them in building, and hired counsels against them to frustrate their purpose all the days of Cyrus, king of Persia, even until the reign of Darius, king of Persia. So just like it's no different what vocab is doing. He's like a spoiled little baby. He comes up and he brings out scriptures and we tell him that don't mean that. Greeks are talking about Israelites, Gentiles is talking about Israelites, and then he'll put up something. If any Israelite kills somebody or robs a bank, it could be a New Old Testament Israelite. He's going to equate it to us because he's set up, like we said. So now let me come back over here. So the men that were wondered at were the men that were back here, which are here today, which represent us as well. We are the men that are wondered at. Let me come back over here. It says the branch, hear now, O Joshua the high priest, thou and thy fellows that sit before thee, for they are men wondered at. For behold, I will bring forth my servant the branch. And we also represent the two witnesses. In a macro sense, we represent the two witnesses in Revelation chapter 11. For behold, the stone that I have laid before Joshua, the high priest, upon one stone, and stone shall be 7 eyes. Behold, I will engrave the graven thereof, saith the Lord of hosts, and I will remove the iniquity of that land in one day. In that day, saith the Lord of hosts, shall ye call every man his neighbor under the vine and under the fig tree. Now, what's going to happen? A lot of things are going to happen in one day. We're going to be changed in one day. This place is going to be destroyed in one day. We're going to be delivered in one day. But that's what I wanted to get at. These are men wonder that. So that's why you see, you know, Sarnetta, he's always putting he's always putting the book, the scriptures on trial. He's always putting the Hebrew Israelites groups on trial. He's always comparing the Hebrew Israelite group to another group. And the same goes for vocab. Vocab is not going to witch covens. You know, he's not going to the Roman Catholic Church. He's not cursing out this government for abortion. He's not out there in front of abortion clinics where you got women actually killing their babies. He's not protesting that. The only thing he's coming against are the Israelites that came, not even all the Israelites. He's coming against the Israelites that came out of One West. And the top groups that he's after, really the number one group is GMS. You know? He got a love Jones for GMS and Sakari and IUIC and ISUPK. And there's a reason why he's constantly, he doesn't deal with the Moes. You know, he doesn't deal with anything else. There's so many people going the wrong way that's going to lead them to hellfire, which is hell, which they teach. But he goes after us. Like I said, and I told you why. Because we are men wonder that. Just like Zerubbabel, Joshua the high priest, those were men wonder that. They built a physical temple, and we're building a spiritual temple. And we are that spirit. We each of us represent a brick. So now let me see. Let me come over here. All right, I gotta find this again. Okay, let's come back over here. This is getting longer than I thought it was gonna get, but that's how the spirit works.
And the angel of the Lord spake unto Philip, saying, Arise and go toward the south unto the way that goeth down from Jerusalem unto Gaza, which is desert. And he arose and went and said, And he arose and went, and behold, a man of Ethiopia, an eunuch of great authority under Candace, queen of the Ethiopians, who had the charge of.
Now, this man of Ethiopia was an Israelite. This man of Ethiopian was an Israelite. Now, the Christians use this to say, well, what about it clearly says he was an Ethiopian. So if he can get access to the kingdom and he can be saved, then any nation can be saved. Well, that individual from Ethiopia was an Israelite.
All the treasure, and had come to Jerusalem for to worship.
Now, why did he come to Jerusalem? Because he was a Hebrew Israelite.
He came to Jerusalem to worship. What showed you that he was why did he come at that time? 3 times in a year, Deuteronomy 16 and 16, that men shall present themselves. The Passover, the weeks, the Feast of Weeks, and the tabernacle, which we in the tabernacles right now. All right, we ain't guys just got up and said, "Oh, let's say the way the Jews. We keep the high holy days, we keep the Sabbath, we keep everything." We get into some people get into the Hebrew more than others. The last video I did, I went into the Hebrew to show that Dr. Brown, the small hat Dr. Brown that did a video with a vocab that he don't know what the hell he's talking about. He said, that's talking about God. It's talking about the one true God. No, it's talking about the angels. And I made it crystal clear if you go into the Hebrew. Matter of fact, the title was written in the Hebrew. And vocab couldn't read that title. So now let's go to the commentary. Cambridge Bible for Schools and Colleges. They got this one correct, pretty much. Behold, a man in Ethiopia, it is better to supply the substantive verb here. Behold, there was Otherwise, the conjunction at the commencement of all this stuff, extra gravy, of the next verse is left untranslated. All right, Ethiopia, like Cush, and they're right on that. The word Ethiopia, Esaport, I believe you pronounce it that way, is a Greek term. When they saw those people, when they took over the people of Cush, they had burnt faces or black, dark faces, so they called them burnt faces. The Greek term, you got to look it up, is burnt faces. It said like Cush. Now, Cush is one of the names of Ham's son. In the Old Testament, is a general name given to the countries which is now called Nubia and Abyssinia, right? Abyssinia and Nubia are where Cush are today. Its northern portion was the great kingdom of Meroe, which we know was ruled over by queens for a long period. Like you had the Queen of Sheba, you had certain kingdoms where you had queens, and their genealogy was all messed up. If you go into their books, like the Kibra Negas, if you go into that book, it gives you the genealogy, but it's one genealogy will mention a man, the next one will mention a woman, which is completely, off. Genealogy is based upon the seed. Women don't have seed, men have seed. So a list of a genealogy of somebody is always by your fathers. And the small hats, they'll say your mother got to be, that came from the Talmud. That's not even in the scriptures. Go to First Chronicles and Second Chronicles, mainly First Chronicles. All those the genealogical lines of the various nations, they all go to men. Go to Genesis 10, they're all dealing with men. And it is from this kingdom, most probably, that the eunuch had come. Jews were, now listen at this. Now, yeah, he came from Ethiopia, right? It said Jews were abundant in Egypt. Where was Egypt? Egypt was directly north of the land of Cush. So you had Israelites living in the land of Cush. You had Israelites living in the land of Egypt. You had Israelites living in the land of Put. You had Israelites living in that whole region. When the angel Gabriel told Joseph and Mary to flee to Egypt. Why? Because you had a community of large number of Israelites down there living in Egypt. The Alexandrian Jews, in Acts 6 and 7, Acts 7 actually, the Alexandrian Jews that killed Stephen for, as a matter of fact, they were from Egypt. There was a large group. There was a lot of Israelites coming out of Egypt to partake of the Passover. So you had Israelites that were living in the land of Cush as well. So this individual was an Israelite living in the land of Cush, and he had a high position under this particular queen. And this man had become a proselyte. Now, proselyte, that's in Acts, the 2nd chapter. It's also in Matthew, the 23rd chapter, where it speaks about the wicked scribes and Pharisees going land and sea to convert one proselyte, and when he makes them change them over, he makes them twofold a child of hell. Are you telling me that the scribes and Pharisees accepted other nations? No, a proselyte simply means someone newly to the faith. So you had Israelites that lived in other lands that knew that they were Israelites, but they lost the language. A lot of them even lost the law, statutes, and commandments, but they knew that their line goes back to, let's say, the tribe of Judah. And you had people born of, you had your great grandparents living, and you wanted to go back to Israel, and you wanted to stay in Israel. Like the Alexandrian Jews, if they wanted to stay in Israel, guess what? They would have had to find plots of land, and if there was a 5,000 of them, they would have had to find so many plots of land for them to live. That's called the law of return, the law of the stranger. Those strangers are Israelites that are outside of Israel. That's in what is that? First Kings, the 8th chapter. Speaks about the change. It speaks about the stranger, right? So this guy was a stranger whose parents were Israelites. He knew he was an Israelite. He wasn't really in the faith like he was supposed to be, but he came out there to learn to become a truly a proselyte, meaning to come into the knowledge of our Lord, Yahushua. They said Jews were abundant in Egypt, and if they were abundant in Egypt, Egypt was directly north of Cush. And this man had become a proselyte to their religion. Under Candace, queen of Ethiopia, of the Ethiopians, we are told by Pliny, you got to look him up, that this was the name of a series of queens of Meroe. So you had rulership of women. It was all about queen. You could have a king up there. Just as Pharaoh at an early period and Ptolemy subsequently were general names. Now Ptolemy were Edomites that came in there dressing up like the Egyptians or the people of Mizraim, and they actually got into the Greek. Well, they were Greek. You have a stone. Let's hope I pronounce it right. A demontic. If I'm pronouncing it right, somebody could correct me. There's a stone called the Rosetta Stone. What's interesting about the Rosetta Stone? The Rosetta Stone was a stone, a stele, which means stone, and it had 3 languages. It had Egyptian hieroglyphics. It also had demontic, if I'm saying it right, which is like a commoner's writing for the common Egyptians, people of Mizraim. Then you had Greek. So when the Ptolemies came into the land of, when they conquered, Alexander conquered the Egyptians, the land of Egypt, who were the new conquerors? They spoke Greek. So they had to understand the hieroglyphs, so it was translated into different languages. And one of the languages was Greek, because the Ptolemies were Greeks. They spoke Greek. And that's what the Rosetta Stone was all about. As a matter of fact, let me do this. Let me do this real quick. Bear with me for a minute. The Rosetta Stone. That's the Rosetta Stone. Let me open this up. See, Christians don't see that's hieroglyphics. That's hieroglyphics. This. Okay, I just showed you that. You can hardly see this. Let me see. Let me come over here. This is hieroglyphics, hieroglyphs. This is demontic, if I'm saying it right, and this is Greek. So this right here was translated into this form of writing and was also translated into that. So if you only spoke Greek, you would read the Greek and you don't know what this is talking about. Let me do this. Let me do this here. Go to all. Get a little information on it. The Rosetta Stone is one of the most popular artifacts in the British Museum. It's still there today, containing a decree written in Greek. I said demontic. It's demotic, and hieroglyphs. This was a common language of the so-called Egyptians. It proved to be the key to deciphering Egyptian hieroglyphs. Because if you only knew the Greek language, you would know what the hieroglyph was because it was translated into the Greek. Okay. So let's come back over here. Okay, under Candace, queen of the Ethiopians, we are told by, and see, we go into a lot of, like the other day I did a video dealing with, was it 4 of the papal bulls that uh, Alexander VI, which is Rodrigo Borgia, he decreed, made a decree by way of the papal bulls dealing with them coming to the New World. I think they were all together. There were like maybe 6 or 7 of them, but I focus on 4 of them. One of the papal bulls was to send missionaries over to make sure the people that they conquered their land, that they continue to learn about Christianity. And that's how not plantation Christianity, but Renaissance Christianity, came over here to the New World among the so-called Indians. Everything about their Christianity was white, which is bullshit. So it says we are told by Pliny that this, if you want to get into Pliny, you can get into Pliny, Pliny, that this was the name of a series of queens, because they only had queens. The monarchy was queens. I showed you how them Hamites and so forth. And that's why these jakes over here, oh, that's the queen. The black woman is God. Well, you know what? Tell that woman to save me out of this fucking condition that I'm in. Just as Pharaoh, queen is spreading her fucking legs, man. She's the queen, and the word queen translates into the word whore. Just as Pharaoh. That's why we don't deal with you motherfucking comedic niggas, man. Your masses at circulacution, talking in circles. You're talking in circles. Have this debate, have that debate. Nothing. Look, the hood don't change. You ain't got the homeless off the street. It says, just as Pharaoh at an early period, and Ptolemy, if you go into the history of the Ptolemies, though they came out of Alexander. Subsequently, and like I said, Christians don't know this. In order for you to understand these scriptures, especially the prophetic part of the scriptures and the historical part of the scriptures, you have to know this history. You have to link the history up. Christians don't do that. Subsequently, were general names of the kings of Egypt, really kings at that time, and Caesar for the Roman emperors, and had come to Jerusalem to worship. Why did he come to worship? As proselytes did. Proselyte is someone new to the faith. If you were a Jew or Israelite and you followed the Messiah, which a lot of the scribes and the Pharisees and even the priests there was a lot of them that was following the Messiah, so they were proselytes. Then you had Israelites. If you go back to Matthew 23, that became newly to the faith because they were blessed with the law of return of the stranger, right? Cornelius was an Israelite, but he didn't know no Hebrew, nothing like that. He had to learn all over again. His parents knew that they were Israelites. They left the land. They got caught up, most likely with during the Maccabean period, the Antiochus Epiphanes forcing them to not be an Israelite or under the penalty of death. It says, as proselytes did, as well as Jews. And what is a proselyte? A Jew that comes back to the faith, whether they find out that they're Israelites and start keeping the law, or ultimately to follow Yahushua. And that's why the apostles spoke these different languages, because you had Israelites coming from all over, pursuant to Deuteronomy 16:16, and they were given that word. That was a mighty miracle, man. They would turn one way and speak one language, and they would turn the other way and speak another language. That's true power. It says, as proselytes did, as well as Jews, this we learn from the enumeration of those who were present at the feast of Pentecost. Acts 2:10, among whom proselytes were expressly named. So in John 12, verse 20, we find Greeks coming up to the feast at Jerusalem. And that's, see right here, let me go to this. Because the wicked scribes and Pharisees, he said the whole world is going after him. You can read that for yourself. And that world, the word world there is cosmos, which is the Israelites. And there were certain Greeks, those Greeks were Israelites that coming back into the fold, like Cornelius, perfect example, among them that came up to worship at the feast. Let me do this. I want to see what they say concerning the feast. It doesn't tell you what the feast is, but let's see what they say. So we're at commentary, right? Let's go to Ellicott's commentary for English readers. And there were certain Greeks, which were Israelites, that didn't necessarily know that they were Israelites at the time. It says John 7:35. We know what that is. Would he go among the disperse of the Jews to teach the Jews among the Greeks? Where we have the same word in the original in Acts 6:1. You know what that says? Acts 9:29, Acts 11:20. They were, you read these on your own. They were not Hellenists, i.e., Greek Jews, but Hellenines, i.e., Gentiles, meaning what? That these were Israelites that didn't know that they were Israelites. Anytime you come across the word Gentile receiving a blessing from the Most High in the New Testament, and even in the Old Testament, it was referring to Israelites. Cornelius, the ultimate Gentile, that became an Israelite, that was always an Israelite. It said, among them that came up to worship at the feast, the words implied that they were in the habit of going up to Jerusalem at the feast, that though Greek by birth, meaning Israelites that were born in Greece and other lands, they had been admitted to the privilege of so-called Judaism. Why? Because they were Israelites. They belonged to the class known as proselytes of the gate. And it mentions Matthew. It says Matthew 23:15. I spoke on that. So what is a proselyte, vocab Malone? A proselyte is an Israel. Cornelius is a perfect example of a proselyte. Woe to you, scribes, Pharisees, hypocrites, for you can pass sea and land. You go outside of Israel to the land of Palestine to make one proselyte. And when he is made, it's not talking about a Gentile. Look, the scribes and the Pharisees did not allow Gentiles among them. They looked down on the Gentiles. And when he is made, you had Israelites that hated the Samaritans because they wasn't the real people. And when he is made, you make them twofold more the child of hell than yourselves. Acts 8:27. And he arose and went and beheld a man of Ethiopia, an eunuch, which is an Israelite, of great authority. He was head over the treasure. So this queen trusted this man under Candace, queen of the Ethiopians, who had the charge of all the treasure and had come to worship, to come to Jerusalem to worship. Why did he come to Jerusalem to worship? Because he was an Israelite that was living outside the land of Israel. That was a pilgrimage that he made. And this is why when you read the rest of Acts 8, from that particular point, he says to Philip, can you, what does this mean? No, Philip said it to him, what does this mean? And he said, how can I know except the man guide me? So the Most High set up men to be over other men. Anyway, with that, I'm going to say shalom.